Good evening. Majo John Ned from my camper van in Colonia Moctezuma. My iPhone keeps wanting to tell me that I'm in Colonia Santa Barbara, and I guess technically I am, but the GPS says that most of this area is Colonia Moctezuma, and I love to say that. I love the indigenous word, and I love that I discovered only weeks after being here that Moctezuma was the last of the great Aztec emperors. That's where the name comes from. And when the couple people I've mentioned it to around here, do you know what Moctezuma was? No, they don't know. Any more than they know what the English on their shirts says. 9 times out of 10, if you say, do you know what it says on your shirt? And usually it's something very nice, like life is good, or I'm the best, or something. No, they don't know what it means. They just got it cheap somewhere. So I'm going to make a long form on A Course in Miracles, which was a channeled document that came through, I looked it up the other day, in the 70s. I think it was published in 75. And it came through a woman psychologist named Helen Schuckman in New York. I think she was in the New York City area. And working in, she was in the university. And not a spiritual person, not a healthy person. I think she died a bad death not long afterwards, like 82. And some people take that as a way of discrediting the material. But the material is quite potent. I'm not much of a guy for channeled documents, although I've experienced some of it myself over a number of years. I was trained by my first serious spiritual teacher was Sri Chinmoy in New York City, who was quite a heavy hitter and a great guy. With some elements of his teaching were way too puritanical for me, and I bailed after 3 years. But it got me through my divorce. That spiritual path got me through my divorce, which was an awful, difficult thing after 10 years. But A Course in Miracles, so my divorce was like in 79. I did not discover A Course in Miracles until a couple or maybe 3 years later. I was in Syracuse, New York, where our divorce happened, and I went to a Unity church, not Unitarian. Unity is less popular, less mainstream. It's I guess you'd call it a New Age church, positive thinking church. And Christian, I think has Christian stuff to it. And Helen Schuckman always said that her document was dictated by Jesus. Now, who knows? That's her culture. She's in a Christian culture. I think she was Jewish and not religious. But it's potent stuff, and it's influenced a lot of people. And the Unity churches, I think around the U.S., at least in Syracuse and then again in Chicago, because that's the Unity Church is real positive and real effective, really helpful for a lot of people, but not deep spiritually. So the ministers often reach to Course in Miracles for spiritual depth, which it's deep. It's deep. It's 3 books. The total is something like 1,300 pages. The workbook is 365 lessons, theoretically 1 a day, and they're very practical. Each of them is a lens to look at the world. And then the text is this deep metaphysical stuff, which I mostly never touched. I went into it just enough to get my eyes glazed and say, I'm not that smart. I've never been a Ph.D., but never was a theoretical guy and never wanted to be a researcher. In some ways, I really didn't fit. I was taught in university 2 years, not because that's what I wanted to do, but I wanted to stay close to my university to finish my dissertation. Really lovely liberal arts college, Alfred, New York, upstate New York. And right in my second year there, I was voted the most popular faculty member. I was great with students. And hands-on courses like counseling skills, I really had a blast with that stuff. And they fired me because I wasn't an intellectual. They knew it, they could spot it, and they also knew that the psychology faculty were partying with students and Yeah, sleeping with students. Yeah, I've never been promiscuous, but I did have two one-offs with students and partied with students a lot because I'm a peer-oriented guy. Always been a peer-oriented guy. Uh, my spiritual influences before Course in Miracles were TM, Transcendental Meditation, and I never regarded Maharishi, Ramana no. You know that guy, the Beatles guru, the TM guy, uh, Mahesh Yogi, I don't know. But it was good stuff, and it really helped me for a year or two, but I knew that wasn't my real spiritual path. And then when I, in very profound way, found Sri Chinmoy, he was the real deal, and he helped me a lot. And Harvey Jackins, right through that same period, the creator of reevaluation counseling or co-counseling, a giant, a brilliant, brilliant man, who that movement of peer co-counseling at its height had 300,000 practitioners in the U.S. and Europe. And it was really good stuff. And one of my clinical faculty was into it. And so I was learning Freudian and behavioristic stuff at the university and trying to dose myself with an antidote for all that stuff through the co-counseling, which I threw myself into for many, many, many years. And it's unique among all the personal growth disciplines in that it has a really strong social change edge. Harvey Jackins had been an organizer for the Communist Party. And I trust the story that the whole reason he invented it was as a way to get people over their shit so they would man the barricades, and do something to change the world. But a heavy emphasis on sexism and all the isms, taking a stand. It really was a version of the Bodhisattva Pledge. I will not rest until all the beings are at peace. And as long as one of my brothers is being oppressed, I'm being oppressed. And that has influenced me a lot. And again, since my big spiritual wake-up, not through any particular teacher, just right to the source 4 years ago, I'm very much that way. Do not fuck with a dog around me. I did it here just a few days ago in Mexico, where to directly contradict someone is a violent act. And it's not going to provoke violence because the people are so gentle and sweet and don't have guns. But I saw a guy abusing his dog, and I yelled at him, "Leave that dog alone," much louder than that. It got his attention. And he's a big guy, and I just kept sitting on the step I was sitting on as he came towards me. And he wasn't going to do anything. As he got there, I said, "No moleste su perro. Leave your dog alone." And he just walked. But it felt good because I'm a guardian of the dogs and guardian of the children and the homeless people. And yeah. So other spiritual influences. Oh, the other day I left out maybe the most important one. Thich Nhat Hanh was a giant in the field of mindfulness. Zen Buddhist, never wanted to be called a guru. He was a teacher, Thai. Thai is Vietnamese for teacher. And it was his order that immolated themselves in the Vietnam War in the town squares. Big emphasis on social change. Yeah. Peace. Being peace. Peace is every step. These are his books. Emanating peace, practicing peace. And I've developed a violent side. I've developed a part of me that's willing to use force, willing to use violence. I killed a dog recently. The killer dog who was threatening our dogs in the little pueblo of El Diamante. I was about to leave, and I said, that dog, once he starts, he's not going to stop. If I had not intervened in those 3 other dog fights, he'd have killed one of the dogs. So I killed him. I stabbed him. Yeah, that was a milestone. I was scared to death because I hit him with a big rock and he started to come at me. Yeah, that's that dog. And if it hadn't been for little Mufafa biting him in the butt, I would have been in trouble. But Mufafa bit him. He turned to Mufafa. Boom. I got him between his shoulder blades. Yeah, that was real different. I've never taken a life. But I was glad. I was proud. And I felt grateful. I felt like I had been coached to do that. But the teacher I left out was Ramana Maharshi. When I first went to Asheville, North Carolina from Chicago in '04, my first week there, a top teacher from the Ramana Maharshi lineage, third generation, because he's been gone a long time, the sage, the great sage of Arunachala, the mountain, his spiritual mountain. Carlos Lopez was a Harvard psychiatrist, child psychiatrist, who traveled around and was trying to get out of teaching. He didn't want to do it anymore, but he was a fabulous teacher, and what a sweet, oh my God, what a sweet man. And I sat in a session with him and got a chance to answer a question, because I was still suffering from the notion that I had bipolar disorder. And it's only in the last 4 years that I realized, no, I have very strong energy rushes. I go into ecstatic states, and that's a gift. And I don't naturally get depressed. I just get depleted and tired. And that's a strong indigenous tradition. Aboriginal peoples will have their seers, people who go into high states and get visions. I do that. Yeah, I always have, but it got branded, and I spent 30 years in hell. But Ramana Maharshi, and his question was, people would come to him and say, how do I become more spiritual? And he'd say, forget that question. Who are you? Remember who you are. And 4 years ago, I remembered who I am. And it's been rock solid for 4 years. And I've been a happy guy. Happy. Relentlessly happy guy. Annoyingly happy. So, back to A Course in Miracles. I love the first thing that, is the way I hear the story, the first thing that Helen Schuckman heard and wrote down was, this is A Course in Miracles, take good notes. And she did. She wrote like crazy, and Bill Thetford was her supervisor, another psychologist, and they collaborated on this over a number of maybe 5 or 7 years before they published it. And those daily lessons, and then the third book, there's a third little book which is called A Manual for Teachers. And it's theoretically for people who teach A Course in Miracles, but anybody who teaches, and therapists, it applies perfectly with therapists. And the biggest takeaway I got from that was, if the learning isn't mutual, if you as the helper are playing the role as helper, if you are not getting as much out of loving the person you're teaching, helping to heal, doing therapy for, if you're not getting as much out of it as they are, it's askew. There's something going wrong. It becomes toxic. Because it becomes roles then. You're one up and they're one down. It's toxic. It has to be peer. Has to be peer. And that's why reevaluation counseling, peer counseling, was so perfect for me. What a great influence. So, 365 lessons. Theoretically, you could get through them in a year. You write it down, the lesson, put it in your pocket or your purse, and at first you're pulling it out like once an hour. And at the end, it's like every 5 minutes. You're going back to it every 5 minutes. And you're using these lenses to undo the way you see the world. The first 10 lessons are all variations of, I don't understand the meaning of anything I see. I'm never upset for the reason I think. Yeah. And then it moves into more positive things about, I could see peace instead of this. And that's the one that's been on my mind a lot through the whole Navidad season, because I've had some things that have been really rough. And such incredibly wonderful things. And Navidad, my taxi driver up here today, I'm talking pretty good Spanish after 9 months, mostly in places where there's nobody speaking English. So my Spanish in normal situations can be really good. I get lost in a whole hurry when someone says, wow, you speak good Spanish. I'll say, 2 minutes from now, I'm going to be going, no entiendo. I don't understand. No entiendo nada. then the conversation will totally fly over my head. But more and more, I'm picking up the rhythms, and I'm starting to get it. So, taxi driver, I said, "Oh, Navidad in Mexico, so much better than Christmas in America, which is commercial. You have to spend big bucks. People just expect you to spend a lot of money. And it was a big budgeting thing for me every year. No, they're not like that in Mexico. They give gifts and they give love. They give love, such loving people. And oh, they're so sweet with their kids. I've done many tapes already about how great parents are, fathers and mothers. Great parents in Mexico, and the kids are extraordinary. They're magical. So I spent 3 years going through those 365 lessons, and it revamped my psyche pretty much. I didn't have big spiritual experiences, but I was little by little patiently shifting the way I looked at the world. The ego, we mostly come from the ego. We feel lost and alone and vulnerable and threatened and scared. And the soul, the big S self, knows that it's part of everything. And I have that. I know that I'm part of everything. And naturally loves everybody and everything. And the most popular book is Love is Letting Go of Fear, Gerald Jampolsky. It's really great. I think it probably has weathered the test of time, 30 years or whatever. I really recommend that. And then Marianne Williamson is a very big popularizer who's never... I just downloaded some stuff from her the other day, but she's never influenced me at all. I never took a class. I just did it through the books and daily. So then I turned around and spent 4 years going through the 365 lessons again. And I walked into a Course in Miracles weekend, or maybe one day or weekend workshop early, and the teacher felt it on me as I came through the door. She looked and went, "Oh, hi, you're one of us, aren't you?" She just knew it. She could feel it. So I'm going to cry. Yeah, what word influence was that? So love is letting go of fear. I could see peace instead of this. There are times to do combat, and I don't even know what the Course in Miracles says about that. Thich Nhat Hanh, it's just nonviolence. But I killed that dog, and ironically, after mostly rejecting Freudianism in grad school, I've turned around to say, I've always said that my spiritual path is the lower road to higher consciousness. I've been saying that for 30 years. Gritty Chicagoan. But sex and aggression, we're still afraid of them. We still haven't mastered them. And they're potentially incredible forces for good. Jesus knocked over the tables in the temple, supposedly. I haven't quite done that, but I've done the equivalent. And I've learned to stand my ground. Brene Brown doesn't claim to be a spiritual teacher. She's a social scientist. But I think she's the wise woman for our time. And her dialectic, I did a 10-minute video about what's wrong with the 10 Commandments. The rules, mindless. It's dialectics. It's always one value is struggling with another value. I'm seeing the hook to Marxism and Harvey Jackins, and she doesn't talk about that. But the dialect of hers that's influenced me so much is open heart, love, and solid boundaries, which us nice middle-class folks aren't as good at. But I am. Yeah. Don't fuck with me. Do not tell me what to do. And do not fuck with me, because you will discover something you did not know was in me. And I didn't used to know. I've done brave things my whole life. I've intervened for the powerless just automatically my whole life. But I do it for me now. Yeah, don't fuck with me. Or don't make me angry with the Incredible Hulk. I use that line. Don't make me angry. Because I change. And I'm glad I do. So I don't know where that stands with Course in Miracles, but you're still acting out of love, because karmically it's a disaster if they hurt you. you're preventing them from suffering a tremendous karmic wound, because if they hurt you, even humiliate you successfully, that's bad for them. So you say, I'm going to help you avoid that terrible karmic load by getting right in your face and say, yeah, you want to try me? I use that exact line. Okay, 20 minutes. I didn't have a target. The way I do videos, the way I teach videos is totally improv. Totally improv. Life continually says, don't rehearse this conversation, don't rehearse this video. You say something and I'll tell you what to say next. Same way that life instructed me in Appalachia and the mountains there, how to cross a stream. Lift up your foot and I'll show you the next rock. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Bye.